Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and today we are going to be looking at The Ambassadors. This is a latest jam from both Mark Millar and Frank Quitely. And because of those two people involved, it's kind of hard to talk about it without talking about them, rather than just the comic. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the comic book because it's absolutely worth doing. I'm going to start by talking about the artwork, which involves a bit of Frank Quitely for obvious reasons. He is the artist, and he is fantastic. And he's somebody who I kind of pushed up against early on when I first discovered him, after he took over an authority with some other writer. It went from a very bold, widescreen, smooth-lined, cinematic art style to something a little bit more stylized. Everyone looked like they were pouting, and they went from looking like more superhero musculature to people wearing muscle suits under their regular clothing. So I brushed off him originally, and then he did some work with Mark Millar, which it was Mark Millar's writing, which didn't really do it before me, so I didn't get into it. But you can't really deny at this point that he is one of the greatest comic book artists out there. Genuinely love everything he's been doing recently, and this is a fine example of him at his best. It's full of action sequences which look amazing, really nice detailed character work, huge widescreen shots, and some brilliant just ways of framing and laying out the story. Genuinely fantastic artwork throughout. The concept is interesting. It is the idea of there being somebody who has the ability to create superheroes and their process. Now, at that point, we do have to talk about Mark Millar, because I'm a fan of his, but I come and go, because sometimes I really love his stuff, sometimes I don't. I have gone from really quite enjoying Kick-Ass to absolutely hating Nemesis, the first volume. Literally is a bit where a guy jumps from the wing of one aeroplane to another aeroplane, both travelling at speed, at cruising altitude, and the guy was wearing a cape, and I'm just like, yeah, sorry man, no, just no. But then I also really quite like The Unfunnies, which is crazy. It's a mad comic book which everyone should read. And I liked Hook, and I liked King of Spies, and then I like Kick-Ass, but there's a bit where he literally uses rape to motivate a male character. There is issues with him, to the point that me and some friends joke about how long it's going to be in Mark Millar comic book before there's going to be a miscarriage or a stillbirth or a baby ripping itself out of the womb. It's the kind of thing which he just does. So I'm always going into it a little bit odd, and also always looking at how he's going to approach the politics situation, because yes, it's the kind of stuff I'm interested in, but also he is a fascinating person. After years of reading him, I think he is definitely left of centre, but not by much, and still has kind of a liberal take on things. If you think like at Kick-Ass, where the main character becomes a cop, that feels very much like, yes, vigilantism is fine, but the goal is to be an actual proper policeman. But then we've got King of Spies, where it's somebody who's done the work of capitalism and colonialism for his entire life, but then gets ill and decides to actually go and destroy all that as much as he can. And that again feels very much like, yeah, just one guy can go and destroy it. Very male power fantasy, instead of actually putting in the work to change systemic issues. All this feels like a very liberal take on leftism, and I'm fine with it. It's definitely better than being right wing. Well done. But it leads me to think that I need to really be paying more attention to this kind of thing. And then we get Ambassadors, because it's a story of superpowers and how we get them. And the main focus we have in this is creating superpowers and giving them to people. Usually in comic books, when we get this kind of thing, it's done by either countries or corporations, which lead to nationalism and capitalism being the main driving forces, and neither of those are usually forces for good. So Miller comes in at this one with the idea that he's somebody who actually has the ability to do it, has been in prison for several years because the business partner screwed them over and framed them, so he could be the one to make superheroes and make all the money for it. She does it and decides to give it to 6 people who she's going to decide are the most altruistic. And this is why I was talking about Mark Millar's politics, because I don't think we're going to get to that point without Mark Millar telling us exactly what his ideas of altruism are. And I'm fascinated by this. If you look at some of the Crypto Bros ideas of altruism, that Sophie from Mars has done like a fantastic video on conspiracy on the left, which gets into that a lot more detail than I can. I'm genuinely curious about how he's going to approach this. I think he's going to be a very telling look at who this person is and how they're going to get this idea across. But, and I can't stress this enough, it's a fantastic comic book. Really well written. There is some plot points already in there which I think are going to mess with the basic idea. There's already at least 2 individuals which seem to be super powered, and there's some really nice backstory being built up, and it genuinely, again, Frank Quitely, it looks amazing. It is absolutely luscious to take in. I honestly cannot wait to see how it's going to pan out. I'm not 100% convinced it's going to be the best comic book I've ever read. It could go either way. These ideas are big, and when you swing for big ideas like that, it is possible to using a baseball analogy, like right out of the field, or you're just going to strike out. I like the idea that Mark Millar is constantly going to be taking these swings. I love that for him, but it does mean I'm still a little bit skeptical, shall we say, that it's going to absolutely land. But I'm happy to go along for the ride. That's it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow with another review. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.